Hey, welcome to The Explainer. There are some books you just read, and then there are books that really, they change you. Today, we are diving deep into one of those world-changing books, Maya Angelou's incredible memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And we're going to be drawing from a really detailed analysis from the Life Beyond the Covers blog. And this quote really captures it perfectly. The book unfolds as a lyrical odyssey, taking us all the way from childhood trauma to self-realization. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to explore the world she grew up in. We'll unpack all the powerful themes she weaves through the story. We'll meet the key people in her life. And of course, we'll look at how she uses symbols to tell a story that is so much bigger than just her own. All right, let's dive right in. Angelou writes with the soul of a poet. She just does. She takes us right into her early years. And it's a time just marked by racism, abandonment, and violence. But, and this is the key, it's ultimately a story of just incredible resilience. It shows how she found the strength to reclaim a voice that was, for a long time, completely silenced.
And you have to understand, this is not your typical autobiography. Not at all. Angelou weaves together memory, myth, and poetry into this incredible narrative. What that really means is she's not just telling us what happened, she's telling us how it felt. And that's what creates a story that feels so timeless, so universal.
Okay, so to really get her story, really get it, you have to understand the world she was living in. So let's step back in time and look at the historical and cultural backdrop of this memoir.
So first, just try to picture the Jim Crow South in the 1930s. We're talking about a world of strict, legally enforced segregation. This was Maya's childhood reality. At the very same time, her family's own movements kind of echo the Great Migration, right? Where millions of African Americans were moving to find new opportunities. And if that wasn't enough, on top of all that, she had to navigate these incredibly narrow roles and expectations for women back then. Her story is basically a challenge to every single part of that.
And it's from inside this really challenging world that some of the book's most powerful themes start to emerge. So let's take a look at the core ideas that are really driving this whole narrative forward.
Okay, so at its very heart, this book is about racism and that deep human search for belonging, especially in a world that's constantly telling you you're not worthy. After a deeply traumatic event, Maya becomes mute for years, and her journey from there shows how silence, it can be both a prison and a shield, and how finding your voice again is what true freedom really is. For her, books become this escape, this salvation. Literature literally saves her, and through everything, it's those bonds, family, community, mentorship, that give her the foundation she needs to heal and to grow.
All right, so with all those powerful themes in mind, let's actually walk through the major turning points of Maya's journey.
So the story kicks off with Maya and her brother Bailey being sent to live with their grandmother, who they call Mama, in Stamps, Arkansas. And it's there, at just 8 years old, that she suffers this horrific trauma that just completely shatters her world, and it leads her to stop speaking entirely. That silence, it becomes both her shield and her prison.
She finally does break her silence, and it's to testify in court. And in that moment, she discovers the incredible power of her own story, of her own narrative. But her challenges, they are far from over. Even in school, a place that's supposed to be safe, she faces this prejudice that teaches her a hard lesson. Racism can be found absolutely anywhere.
Then, a move to California just opens up this whole new world for her. Art, music, culture, and it totally broadens her horizons. But it's also here that she experiences a teenage pregnancy, which is, of course, another completely life-altering event that reshapes how she sees herself and her identity. So she's back in Stamps, now with her newborn son, and she's trying to balance it all. She's working day shifts at the department store and spending her evenings in the church choir. And what's amazing is this surprising joy she finds in motherhood. It exists right alongside a deep sense of isolation and real economic hardship. And then her mother reappears, and she is flamboyant, ambitious, restless. Their reunion is, it's turbulent, and it teaches Maya so much about autonomy, about self-respect, and about the really difficult dilemmas of being an independent woman at a time when there were basically no safety nets to catch you. Then a touring company of Porgy and Bess comes through, and it just ignites this passion for performance in Maya. She ends up in San Francisco, and get this, she becomes a streetcar conductor by day and a nightclub singer by night. And during this time, interracial relationships start to challenge everything she thought she knew about race and desire. So, surrounded by backstage drama and class divides, Angelou is just honing her craft, both in her writing and in her music. By the time the memoir closes, her battered self-esteem is completely transformed. It's become this burgeoning confidence of a writer who's ready to give voice not just to her own personal history, but to these universal truths about human dignity.
Okay, now let's zoom in a bit. Let's look closer at the people who really shaped her journey, and also at the powerful symbols Angelou uses to tell her story. I mean, this memoir is just filled with unforgettable characters. Of course, you have Maya herself on this incredible journey from shame to empowerment. Then there's her brother Bailey, her stern but always steady grandmother Momma, her charismatic but, let's say, unreliable mother Vivian, and you can't forget Mrs. Flowers, the teacher who reminds her just how powerful words can be.
Angelou is just a master at using symbols to give her story so much more depth. The caged bird, well, that's the obvious one, right? It's the struggle for freedom. But she also uses other things, like poetry to symbolize liberation, and even silence to represent both protection and imprisonment. It's this beautiful layering of meaning that makes her writing feel so much like poetry.
So, the big question is, why? Why does this book still resonate so powerfully today? Well, let's take a look at its incredible legacy.
I mean, its impact has been absolutely immense. This book shattered barriers by talking so openly about sexual violence at a time when very few others would dare to. It's become a cornerstone in education, right? It sparks these vital conversations about race, gender, and healing. And its incredible success, that was just the beginning. It launched a whole series of 7 autobiographies, each one painting this rich, complex portrait of Black womanhood in America.
So really, Angelou's first volume is so much more than a memoir. It's a blueprint, it's a template for how to transform deep personal pain into collective empowerment. And whether you return to its pages looking for comfort or inspiration or just for historical insight, the Caged Bird's song, it just continues to resonate. It's always there, urging all of us toward our own freedom of voice and spirit.
And so we'll leave you with this final question to think about, a question that's drawn right from the heart of the book itself. How does the act of finding your voice actually change the structure of your own story?